I did it this morning, for example.
Oh, you still do your radio show?
I've been doing it for 35 years.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I thought it's gone already.
No.
And I thought nobody listens to it.
No, I have like 6,000 listeners. I tried to quit. They told me they can't. No.
I don't know if they know that you're getting older.
It's
I thought nobody listens to you. Like, I
No.
thought we used to sit with Bobby in the living room, and we thought we had to be quiet while you were recording, but I thought nobody actually listens to you.
No, I understand.
6,000 people?
They tell
Zaydi,
me,
you have
I
a
tried
huge
to-
audience.
I tried to quit. They told me I have 6,000 listeners.
You're an influencer with the 6,000
Yeah.
people for 35 years. That's
I have people who write to me from Ohio, Goyim.
goyim.
Yeah.
Anyways, today I have the honor of having my Zaydi at the podcast. Zaydi is Saba Beydish, and Bobby, or Bobby, we say Bobby is Safta Beydish. And my Zaydi, my grandfather, is here today, and he came all the way from Yerushalayim to Tel Aviv. And he's already 90 years old.
And he has a name.
What is your name?
My name is Jay.
Jay Shapiro.
Gimel Yud.
Right. When I was
With
young.
a mark on the Gimel.
Right. When I was young and I picked up the phone in your house, so they kept on asking for gay. Gay
Yeah, I know,
b'bayit.
yeah.
So I was like, me gay.
No, I'm not gay. I'm normal.
You're not gay.
No.
Okay. You're Jay.
Jay.
So Jay Shapiro. Also, you're one of my best friends, and I think that's very unique for grandchildren
Thank you.
and grandparents. Although you always say that we have the same enemy, that's why we're close.
The parents.
Exactly.
The grandparents and the grandchildren have a common enemy.
Right.
The parents.
So we always had the enemy, and she's actually here. Yeah. So we'll pretend like she's not. But thank you for driving him. And it's a big honor. When I called you and I asked you to come, so you said to me, it's good we're doing this now and not in 6 months from now, because you're afraid that you'll be losing your memory in 6 months from now. And then I asked you short term or long term, and you said, well, I'm 90. What's short and what's long?
I don't remember what I ate yesterday, but I can tell what I did 65 years ago.
And you know your name, which is also good.
Yeah, that's good.
So I think we're not losing it yet. But are you scared, Zaydi, of
What?
Are you scared of losing your memory?
Now that I'm starting to lose it, it worries me. And I do what I can to keep my memory alive. I read a lot, right? And I meet with people. So
they remind you.
Yeah.
And you also write yourself. You've been doing this for years. In your pocket, you have a note, and you write down everything you want to do that day, and then you cross it out. Right.
Right.
So that helps you.
And if I do something that's not on my list, after I do it, I put it on and cross it off.
Right.
Yeah.
So even though it's not so easy for you, we're going to try to go back the memory lane. But I'm going to ask you to behave and not do any dirty talking. I'm just kidding. You be yourself. Yeah. You taught me what dirty talking, so.
Okay.
Anyways, we'll walk down the memory lane, and I'm going to start with you as a child. You grew up in Philadelphia. We have the Phillies hat here, which is your trademark. You grew up in Philadelphia to a non-religious home.
Right.
They knew. I mean, they were in touch with their Judaism, but you grew up. You want to talk about it?
I grew up in a rather unusual family. My father had a store, a drugstore, a pharmacy, and we lived in the back behind the drugstore. And from the age of 5, my mother sent me to Hebrew school, even though I went to public school in the morning. And when I got into 7th grade, they sent me to what's called a parochial school. The Lubavitch, at that time, there were very few day schools.
Chabad. Lubavitch is Chabad.
Lubavitch were then and even today. Lubavitch, there's something like 4,000 Lubavitch shlichim, they call them, all around the world, who bring Judaism all over the world. So they had a Lubavitcher came to Philadelphia, and he opened a day school. And there was a 6th grade, a 7th grade, and an 8th grade in the same room with one teacher and a grand total of 12 students in all 3 grades. That's how small it was.
Very small.
And I went every day by bus and by trolley to go there, and it took me an hour and a quarter every morning to get there, and an hour and a quarter to come home. And my father had a drugstore, and I said we lived in the back. The drugstore was open on Shabbat,
Right.
but in the house we had a Shabbat clock. And
Oh, really?
Yeah.
On Shabbat you had.
You had a Shon Shabbat in the house. In other words, my mother's attitude, which is very strange,
It's more traditional. What we say Masorti today in Israel, it sounds.
What's that?
It's like the Masortiim in Israel more.
My mother, in her mind, she separated what you have to do to make a living and what you do in your private life. Something very strange. In the store, my parents were open on Shabbat, and they would not let my sister and I go into the store on Shabbat. And in the house was a Shabbat clock.
But I remember that you said you sold condoms. It wasn't on Shabbat then?
No. I would.
Because you were a kid when you were selling condoms.
No,
That's what I remember.
So
not on Shabbat. It was fine that you sold when you were 10-year-old condoms, but not on Shabbat. You
right.
had
I also sold sanitary napkins to women,
Oh, for their periods.
Yeah, I mean, for their period, not mine.
You got your sex education.
Listen, look, I will tell you something. The store also had a fountain. You could also drink soda and get ice cream.
Oh,
Yeah. So one day I was sitting in the back, and there was a woman outside as a customer, and apparently she had bought sanitary napkins for my daughter. As she walked, a man came in, and my sister came running back into the house. She'd run out. So what's the problem? She go out. It turned out the woman who had bought sanitary napkins left. And the guy came in as she left, and he said, "I want a box of rubbers," which is, condoms. So my sister almost had a heart attack and came back.
So she's saying you, but you were like 10.
No, so here we are as a teenager. I was a young teenager. My sister's selling sanitary napkins. I'm selling condoms. It's life.
Yeah,
and you got used to it.
Right. No,
And as a matter of fact, I'll tell you another thing now that I mention it. When I was very young, I'm 3 or 4 years old, my parents taught me about sex, about
the birds and the bees.
How babies are born.
Yeah.
And my father told me because he was afraid I was in the store as a child, and a woman would ask for sanitary napkins or something, and I would yell out something as a kid. So he insisted that I know.
That's very open.
So I knew about sex when I was 6. I didn't know what to do with it, but I knew about it.
It explains a few things.
I have a strange background. I really think
it's not so strange. I think, from my perspective, I think it's a beautiful background because it's designed, or it's עיצב את מי שאתה היום.
No, I'll tell you another thing. Because my parents sent me to a day school, even though they had a store open on Shabbat, but on Shabbat, my sister and I went to my grandparents' house. My grandparents were immigrants from Europe. Right. They were Shomer Shabbos, Shomer Shabbat, and my grandfather and grandmother spoke Yiddish. And they read the Yiddish paper. So I used to read the Yiddish paper with my grandparents. So as a child, I learned Yiddish. I still.
And maybe, try not to maybe hit the table if you can remember. But do you remember then, have you always believed in God?
I want to tell you something. When you're a child, you're told that there's a God.
Right.
And I thought that God was an old man with a long beard who lived in a house across the street on the roof, right? That's more a concept of God.
That sounds like Santa Claus.
Right across from where we lived, there was a Catholic family. I still remember. Their name was Tomlinson, and they told me that they believe in God. So I figured God must live on their roof. So, and I used to be embarrassed. I didn't want to get undressed in front of the window because God might see me. But
so when did you discover it's something else?
No, I had when my parents, when I went to public school, my parents sent me to Hebrew, what's called Hebrew school at night. So I learned Hebrew and things like that. But then the Lubavitch opened up a day school when I was in 6th grade, and they sent me to a full-time Jewish educational institution. So I don't know how much a kid thinks about God, but he knows he prays in the morning, he prays in the afternoon, and he assumes that there's a God. I don't know what keeps
Yeah, but
that.
I'm asking you because I know you today and you're a big believer. And
Yeah.
at some point in your life, and we're going to talk about it, you get to yeshiva, but you came from a very different background
Right.
than the yeshiva friends grew up in.
No.
And you became in like this yeshivish environment, but really you grew up in a not religious home.
No, what happened was when I finished 8th grade, we had a teacher who took us on the holiday of Shavuot. He took us to the yeshiva in New York called Torah Vodaas. And I liked it. And I asked my parents if
Wait, I'll say to the listeners that
I
Torah
lived
Vodaas-
in Philadelphia.
Right.
It's 100 miles or 150 kilometers from New York. But the teacher took us there for the holiday Shavuot, and I liked it. And I told my parents I would like to go to yeshiva.
And they were okay with it?
They were fine with it.
They were happy.
And it was expensive, and they paid for it. No argument. So here I was studying in a yeshiva high school. In yeshiva, during the schedule in the yeshiva, I lived in a dormitory, and the schedule was in the morning you learned Jewish subjects. You had lunch, and then you learned the regular high school topics so you could get a high school education. Every 2 weeks, I went home for the weekend to my parents, whose house was Shomer Shabbos and whose store wasn't.
Right.
So I never went into
Did you bring any friends, or were you embarrassed?
No. As I got older, I brought friends home with me. Some of my friends later on became big rabbis, as a matter of fact, like a fellow
And look
named
what happened to you.
No, I wasn't interested. So when I finished 4 years of high school, right, in this yeshiva in New York, I stayed in the yeshiva, studied Jewish topics from 9 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon.
Right.
I ate supper in the yeshiva very quickly, got on a bus, and spent an hour and a quarter on
Home
a
to
bus.
Philly?
No,
to the dormitory.
Going to Brooklyn College at
Oh,
night.
wow.
So what my day was 9 to 5 yeshiva, an hour supper, an hour and a half on a bus, and then every night from 6:40 to 10:40, 4 nights a week, Monday to Thursday, in Brooklyn College.
Were you
But
studied in college?
And then so an hour back on the bus. So already it was almost midnight. So on the way back to the yeshiva dormitory, I would go into a delicatessen and buy a sandwich. And then I would go back to the dormitory where they had turned out the lights in the rooms so the boys would go to sleep, but they left the lights on in the hallway. So I would take my books into the hallway, study till 2 or 3 in the
Not on
morning,
the
my
table.
college. And then I had to get up 7 in the morning to go to start the yeshiva site. Now, what made it livable was that I wasn't the only guy doing it. I had friends.
Right.
They traveled on
That's
a...
devotion, Zaydi. I got tired only from listening. Like,
Well, yeah,
that's-
no,
like,
really.
where are we? What are we talking
By
about?
the way, at one point, so I couldn't get up in time to go to services in the morning, and during the morning services, there was a guy who marked when you come in.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible.
wanted to know you're there for davening.
No, they would write exactly what time you came in. Whether you came early, came in the middle, whether you came late.
It's not for me, this
so,
place.
I had this job waking up. They gave me a job for $1 a day to wake up all the students in the dormitory on my floor.
Oh, that's smart.
So I would get up, wake up all the students, go back to sleep. So afterwards, the heads of the yeshiva said to me, "How come you're always never at the services in the morning?" I said, "How can that be? I wake everybody else. There must be a mistake." So then what I would do, I would wake everybody up, go back to sleep. At 9 o'clock, I would go into the yeshiva, into what's called the Beit Midrash. Mm-hmm. I would open my books, my Gemara, my Talmud. I would walk out as if I was going to the bathroom, and I would go to a luncheonette and have breakfast, then come back and continue learning till 5 o'clock.
Wow.
So, but I wasn't the only person doing it.
Everyone was doing it. Now I wanna ask you about that time, because around that time you're in your 20s. I think this is the
No, I left each year I was 20.
20. So this is like 1950, right?
I was in yeshiva in New York from 1948 to 1955.
Right. Oh wow. And so around the mid 1950s, you go out and then you go to another yeshiva. If I'm correct.
No.
One second, and then you start dating. And I want to hear about your dating life, because it was popping.
Okay, I'll tell you that in 1 second. Just want to finish one thing. When I left
And I see you don't have a long-term memory problem. We're being very detailed.
No, I don't remember what
going into the details of lunch.
No.
So it's not a long-term memory issue.
It is. No, I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, but I can tell you what I ate for breakfast when I was in the yeshiva.
I can see. Okay, let's move on. Yeah.
No, okay, I understand. I just want to say, so after I had finished the yeshiva, I had accumulated, by going to college at night, I had accumulated credits for 2 years. So I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I finished another 2 years. I got and I graduated the University of Pennsylvania. So, okay, now, during that period of time when I was already in my 20s, so of course I was interested in girls, right?
We said you're not gay. Yeah.
No, I wasn't gay at all. There were some gays in the yeshiva, but that's another story. Anyhow, so what happened was that there were very few religious girls in Philadelphia, very small religious community. So I had to go to New York to.
Oh, you went all the way to New York for dating?
I went all the way to.
Oh my God!
So my friends in New York would fix me up with dates.
But if you've been telling me for years, I don't know why you date one person at a time. We did parallel dating.
Yeah.
And how could you decide who to date from just dating one person?
You couldn't. It was very difficult. Really, it was a very.
So what would you do? Like, how many dates would you go on a week?
No, I would go to New York, say on a Friday, and I would take out a girl Saturday night, and I would take out a girl Sunday
morning, a different girl.
afternoon, and then I'd drive back to Philadelphia.
So like two girls a week?
2 days, 2 dates, right? And what happened was, you want to know how I met my wife, because I think that's interesting. What happened was there was a yeshiva in Philadelphia, and there was a boy there, and that boy kept telling us what a beautiful sister he had. So a friend of mine decided that we wanted to meet his sister. So there's a place in New York where people go for the summer. It's called Rockaway. So my friend and I went to where this boy's parents were staying, and we'd look through the window to see what the girl looked like, because if we didn't like the way she looked, we wouldn't go in. But it turned out that the room was sort of shaped like an L, and she wasn't visible. She was in the kitchen. So my friend said, let's walk. This is true. I'm not making this up. My friend said, let's walk around the block. So we walked around the block, and we looked.
You sound like two satim.
Well, and so we looked in the window. She still wasn't there. So he said, let's walk around the block again. So we walked and she still wasn't there. So my friend said to me, this is stupid. Why don't we keep walking around the block? Let's go in. I said, okay. So we walked in, and these two old people were there, my wife's parents. And my wife, the woman who was to become my wife, came out from the corner, and she was the most beautiful girl I ever saw in my life. Now, what happened then, this is true, I'm not making this up. So we met her, and I fell in love with her.
Immediately when you saw her?
Huh?
When you saw her, you fell in love?
I'm sorry?
When you saw her, you fell in love?
I was the most beautiful girl I ever saw. So she looked like a movie actress, really. So afterwards, we said goodnight, and so the next morning, my friend said to me, I got a headache. I'm going to lie down. I said, oh, go lie down. So being a religious boy, I would not ask a girl for a date on Shabbat for a weekday.
Because it's business. We don't do business on Shabbos.
So as soon as Shabbat was over, I ran to her apartment, And she was standing outside, and I said, I'd like to ask you out. And she said, Jack already asked me. My rotten friend pretended he had a headache so that he could take her out first.
Yeah.
Right?
But she chose you because she's my grandmother.
And then when he took her out, he did something you don't do on a date. He asked her for a second date. So he took her out twice before I ever took out one time. Right?
Oh, you guys would share dates with each other?
No. We had a rule. I knew maybe it's still true. You don't. When you're out with a date with a girl, you do not ask her for another date because she's stuck. If she's not having a good time, she can't.
On the spot, you don't ask her.
He asked her on the spot for a second date, which is something you don't do. So you went out a second time.
I
right?
see.
But after that, I took her out, and I was in love with her. And you want to hear the rest of the story?
I know the rest of the story. Yeah. She was my grandmother, my baby.
My parents were opposed to my wedding.
Right, they were opposed to your wedding.
And I think that's an important thing to tell because it has to do with Jewish law. I was in love with her. I wanted to marry her.
Well, I'm going to say that she was from a Hasidic background.
No, she was very
Charedit.
Her parents were Hasidim. My father-in-law had a big, long beard.
She wasn't very from...
No, she was religious, but she wasn't Hasidic,
yeah.
you know. And so what happened was that I fell in love with her. I wanted to marry her. My mother was opposed to it.
Yeah, I think she had separation issues.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, you're right. That we didn't know those.
She wanted you.
We didn't know what separation issues were.
Yeah, you didn't know psychology at all.
So, and remember, I told you I lived in Philadelphia. It was 150 kilometers from New York. So my mother said, if you continue to see that girl, I don't want you in this house anymore. So one Friday, I went to New York for Shabbat. I came home Sunday. I opened the door to my house. And inside my house was a suitcase packed with my clothes.
Right.
My mother threw me out.
She threw you out, and you started your life with, I think, $4 in your pocket.
I had $4. The first night that I carried my suitcase, I went to what's called the YMCA, Young Men's, and I stayed there for one night, but I couldn't stay there anymore because I had no more money. I had a job already. And I had a friend living at the University of Pennsylvania who was living with his girlfriend, but he had a couch.
Oh, I was afraid you were a third wheel.
So I moved in with this couple living together. I slept on their couch.
Yes.
And every 2 or 3 days, I washed my clothes in the sink, right? So one day I got a call from my father, and he said, your mother's upset, come home. So I went home and I said to my mother, I want to marry this girl. And she just said no. And I said, I would like you to come with me to my rabbi, the head of my yeshiva, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, and I'd like him to speak to you. So she said, okay. I took her to New York. I took her to the Rosh Yeshiva, the head of the yeshiva.
Right.
He spoke to her. And he said to her, your son loves this girl. You should allow him to marry her.
Yeah.
And my mother said no. So afterwards, I said to the Rosh Yeshiva, what will I do? My mother is opposed to my marriage. And he said to me, it says in the Torah, Al Kain Yazov Ish as Avavis Ve'imo. If you fall in love with a woman, you can leave your parents. And knowing that my mother was opposed to my wedding.
You did it anyway.
He was my Masada Kedushin.
Right.
He spoke my name. And his assistant, the other Rosh Yeshiva, read the ksuba at my wedding. Both of them.
They gave you the approval that you needed, I think.
And I think
it makes you, I think it's, I grew up on this very romantic story of you and Bobby, and I'm happy that you did what you did. And I think it mainly made you a man, Zaydi, because you had to become a man. And I think that's what happened in whatever this was. And it's unfortunate that your mother couldn't do that separation.
She didn't allow herself nachat.
Right, to be happy from your life, the life that you chose for yourself. But I want to move on to different things because we could speak forever. You and Bobby start your life, and then I think it was one of your biggest mashberim, one of your most challenging times, because you're married for 7 years and you weren't able to have any children. 6.5, and you weren't able to have any children. And I wanted to ask you about those years Like, how do you wake up every morning and put up a smile when both of you are very disappointed? Bobby grew up in a very like Hasidic, environment. She obviously like needed to have kids. So how did you guys deal with that challenge?
She didn't want to go family affairs of her family because everybody had kids, right? And she didn't want to take a trip. I said, let's go visit Israel. She said, no. I said, why not? She said, people say I'm going to visit Israel because I don't have kids.
Yeah, I think she cared a lot about what people think about her.
Now, I'll tell you what happened. This is very interesting. When I worked in General Electric, I did not wear a kippah. People didn't wear a kippah, but I always ate with a kippah. And one day I was sitting in my office having lunch, and a guy walked in, and he said, "You're a guy who always wears a kippah." I said, "Yes." He said, "I have a problem I'd like you to ask a rabbi about to do." I said, "What's your problem?" He said, "We adopted a baby, and we have to give the baby a name." And I like to ask a rabbi. So I said, "Okay." So we continued the conversation. I said, "No, I also had a problem having children." So he said to me, "I tried everything. My wife and I tried everything. There's a place at the University of Pennsylvania called the Worcester Institute. They do research to help people have kids."
I'm going to tell the listeners it was before they did IVF and things like that. It was IVF is very new.
No, everything was new.
Nothing was.
So he said to me, "I went to the man who's the world's expert, and if he can't get your wife pregnant, nobody can." So I said, "Give me his name." So we went to the Worcester Institute, and I walked in, and as we walked in the waiting room of this doctor was all pictures of babies that he had helped bring into the world.
Wow.
But yeah, so we walked into his office, and he said to me, I will get your wife pregnant within 2 months. If I can't get your wife pregnant within 2 months, I don't want to see you anymore."
Oh, wow.
I said, "How are you going to do that?" He says, "Because doctors clean out women's insides with all kind of stuff, whatever, I don't know details."
We don't have to get into it.
Yeah. But I use this and this stuff to clean out the women's fallopian tubes and everything.
Whatever. And wait, and what happened?
2 months later, she was pregnant.
Right. 2 months later, she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And you had my Ima after all these years.
Which was a big simcha for the whole Jewish community in Philadelphia.
Right.
That Naomi had a baby.
Right.
Like
and it was a big deal. And after having 2 kids, later on you had 4 already.
Yeah.
And you decide to make Aliyah.
No.
And leave I'm just going to ask the full questions, Zaydi, but you're in your 40s, I think. This is after the 6-Day War.
33.
33. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I thought it was 40s. You decide to make Aliyah and to move to Israel. What made you do that decision?
I'll tell you what happened. If you look in the calendar, you'll see that the 6-Day War broke out on a Monday morning. The night before, Sunday, there was a meeting in Philadelphia with all kind of people and rabbis who said the state of Israel might get destroyed, and we will try to save the children. Bring the children.
From Israel?
In other words...
save the children and the adults will die.
In other words, there was a fear the state of Israel would be destroyed.
Yeah, they said
and we should try to bring out the kids.
Yeah.
Like in the Second World War, they brought children from Germany to England. And that was on a Sunday night, right? The war broke out the next morning. And we listened to the radio every day. The war broke out on a Monday. On Wednesday, they captured Yerushalayim, right? And I was listening to the radio, and I thought to myself, I'm in my 30s. I'm a professional. I have a nice job. I was a manager in General Electric. What would have happened if the state of Israel would have been destroyed? What would I tell my children? Why, when I was young and able, why didn't I not come and participate in the development of a state of the Jewish people? And so I decided to come on Aliyah, right?
Wow.
And during my vacation the next summer, I came to Israel Nobody knew I was coming to Israel except my wife, and I looked for work. And I found a job.
In תעשייה אווירית.
Yeah. And
You're
no.
no?
Actually at Raphael.
Oh, Raphael.
Yeah.
But then you moved to תעשייה אווירית?
No, I'll tell you very briefly. I accepted a job at Raphael, and I came back, and two things happened. I started making preparations to go to Israel by selling my house, etc. And one day, a guy came to me in my house. I never saw the guy before, and he was from Israel. And he said to me, "You're not going to work for where you want to work. You're going to work for Tasavirit."
Oh, sounds like Israel in the 60s.
Because
they'll decide for you.
They didn't want people in America to know what was being done at Raphael because of what. Anyhow,
you made Aliyah. You find a job, and a few years later, it's the Yom Kippur War, and you join the army, Tzahal.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Yeah.
And also explain the story of how they accepted you?
Okay. No, what happened was when I was 23 years old and still single, I took a physical for the American Army, and they turned me down because I'm very slightly cross-eyed. It's called astigmatism.
Yeah.
So I came to Israel. After 3 years, I became a citizen, and they called me in to take the physical in Yaffo. And I said,
One second, Zaydi. So after 3 years, you were living, you became a citizen.
I became, and
you were drafted?
Yeah, and I got a notification to come to take a physical for the army.
Sahal.
But I was sure they wouldn't accept me because
you were old also.
I was 38 years old, and I had been turned down by the American Army. So I came and I took the physical in Yaffo, and I was called into a room, and the young girl soldier said to me, "Congratulations, Mr. Shapiro, you passed. When would you like to come in?"
You could say this also in Hebrew if you remember this.
Oh, okay. הצלחת, מר שפירא, מתי אתה רוצה לבוא? So I said to myself, this is a great army. First of all, they ask you when you would like to come in, right? And second, so I said to her, I said, אני לא מבין משהו. האמריקאים לא קיבלו אותי בצבא, והצבא הישראלי שיש לו כזה מוניטין, לא מוצאים אותי, אני מופתע. So she said to me, למה הם לא קיבלו אותך לצבא האמריקאי? And I said, בגלל העיניים שלי. And then she said something classic to me. I've repeated this 1,000 times.
Right.
She said to me, אגיד לך משהו, מר שפירא, לאמריקאים יש שונאים. לישראל יש שונאים. השונאים של האמריקאים רחוקים מארצות הברית. אתה צריך עיניים טובות לראות אותם. פה אתה לא תפספס כלום.
Right.
And that was July 1973. And
October.
October, I was called into the Yom Kippur War. And so I asked people, what are they going to do with an old guy like me?
What did they do with an old guy?
It's very important in Israel you have a military experience, because when you're old, you want to sit around with your children and your grandchildren
and tell them
and talk about. So what they'll do is they'll give you a gun, and they'll show you which end is the front, and they'll send you to a kibbutz for a week every year to stay on guard, and that'll be your army experience. I thought I can do that, but the war broke out. I went in for 4 months, and I became a radio telephone operator in the Signal Corps, attached to the Tank Corps.
Wow.
I did Miluim for a month every year till I was 53 years old.
I didn't know that. That's a long time.
Till I was 53.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Zaydi, if we're going to compare that October to this October, and you as a person who made Aliyah, and you've heard of it, I mean, you're like alive for so long, even before Israel. So like, what do you think of Israel today? Especially after October 7th and these 2 years of war. Because other people that I hear say, they can't live here anymore and stuff like that. So I want to hear your point.
I'll tell you something. I was born in 1935, and I remember when there was no Jewish state. I remember when the state was declared in 1948. When there was no Jewish state, Jews were murdered. 6 million Jews died in Europe because nobody, including the United States, would give them a place. There must be a Jewish state. There must be. After 2,000 years, whether it's dati, not dati, it's immaterial. There has to be a place where Jews can go, no questions asked. Because I lived through the experience, and one time I was sitting at a Friday night table in 1948, and a woman was sitting across the table from me, and she had a number on her arm. She had been in a concentration camp, and she had a number on her arm. That's what Jews have been reduced to. There must be a Jewish state. It's problematic. There's all kind of crazy parties.
But are you hopeful, or are you worried after these 2 years of war?
No, first of all, I'm hopeful because I know what it was like when there was no state. I'm hopeful also because I served in the Army. I raised children who served in the Army. I have grandchildren. In other words, I have raised children who can contribute to the survival of the Jewish people. And that after 120 years, when I have to face God and He's going to ask me why I didn't learn more or why I didn't do other things, I said I provided the people to defend the Jewish state.
So that's what makes you hopeful, having your grandchildren go on
Look,
with this legacy?
I have I have a lot of grandchildren. Some are actively religious, some are not actively. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're Jews. They live in a Jewish country. They contribute to the survival of the Jewish people. I don't care what they do on Shabbos, right?
Yeah.
But that's
You know
life.
what? I have a question that follows that, because we talk a lot about career choices, and I think you're very special for your generation about like career choice, because for years and years we speak about careers, and your children all do something that they love. And I want to maybe ask you as an adult, like, what do you think people should do with their careers? People who are mixed up, people who don't know what to do.
People should do something that gives them personal fulfillment. That's very important. Look, one of my daughters is a nurse. There's no big money in being a nurse. One of my daughters is a teacher. There's no big money. But one of them is helping people, and the other is teaching the next generation. So it's not how much money you bring home. It's nice if you can make a lot of...
And what about your sons?
What?
Your sons?
My oldest son went into the Army, and he became a Sgan Aluf, a lieutenant colonel, and now he's involved in the defense of Tel Aviv.
Right.
Right?
And your other son, I think, which is also interesting.
My other son is completely different. He went to a school and learned how to make movies and plays, and he now he has a new series coming out. He entertains Jews and makes Jews happy.
So that's
No, I'm serious.
I think it's nice, Zaydi, because in our generation, and I know you don't like you definitely don't like that we're on our phones, but people are looking for purpose and to do something that they love to do and that they're connected to it. And I think that's always been your message.
Right.
You always ask me, what do you ask me when you talk to me about my job?
Do you get fulfillment in your job?
And you ask me also if I'm happy.
I told you the two worst jobs in the world, right?
Yes.
One is selling stamps in a post office, because what do you tell your wife when you come home? Today I sold 10,000 stamps, only 9,000 yesterday. And the other is being a policeman in a tunnel going to New York City. Because what they do is they wave at the cars, telling them to go faster, to go slower. So what do they tell their wives when they come home at night? I waved at 40,000 cars today, and yesterday only 30,000. I wouldn't want my kids or my grandchildren to do that kind of job. Do something where you have fulfillment, that you spent the day well, right? And did something not only for yourself, not only for your family, but in particular for Israel, you're doing something for Am Yisrael. That's really important, I think.
We spoke about, telling your wife when you come home. Are you upset that I'm not married, Zaydi?
No, because the right look. I visited a woman yesterday. We had something to do in an apartment. She's 28 years old, has a baby, and's divorced already. Yeah, it's very sad. Her parents are upset. It was just yesterday. Went to visit her. So I want you to find the right person and have a good, fulfilling life. So if you get married at 36 instead of 18, that's okay too. There are people who get married at 18, have children, get divorced. Or see, years ago, people worked so hard, they never had time to be unhappy. They went to work in the morning, they came home late at night, they ate supper, they went to sleep, right? But today you have time to enjoy life, to have a meaningful life. So if you're getting married a little bit later, it doesn't matter, because when you're 90 years old, you won't remember that you got married at 35 or 40 or 28. When you're 90, all the years mesh into one. I know because I'm 90.
And what do you always tell me? If it's good, you always tell me this.
If it's good, it'll wait. If it's no good, why rush it?
Right.
That's my philosophy, and I believe it. I really do.
Looking back at your life, Zaydi, what are you very proud about?
I'm proud that I came to Israel to contribute to the state. I was worked in Taasea Avirit and involved in all kind of defense programs. I'm proud that all my children are good citizens. My kids all served in the Army. My grandchildren all serve in the Army. And they all are essentially good Israeli citizens and good Jews. It doesn't matter if they sit and learn half a day or whether they go to synagogue every morning. They have to contribute to this Jewish society. That's the bottom line.
Is there anything you regret?
Not coming to Israel sooner.
Really?
Yeah. I should have come when I was a little bit younger, but okay, it doesn't matter. There's nothing you can do about a regret. It's gone. It's gone. I had an uncle who used to say every morning when you get up, every morning when you get up, he said to his wife, "This is the first day of the rest of your life." And it is. Every day is the first day of the rest of your life. Make the best of it for yourself, your family, your people, and your country. Otherwise, you could be selling stamps in a post office, right?
Zaydi, do you want to send like a message? Because we're about to we're about to finish. Is there anything that you would want to say? Send a message to the young people listening. To anyone listening, the young people listening, the younger generation.
Do what you think is meaningful to yourself, not just to make a living, to contribute to society, to contribute to your family. It sounds like the kind of stuff you did at school, but it's true. Otherwise, you get up in the morning, work, go home, drink beer, and watch television. That's not a life for a Jew. That's one of the nice things about living in Israel, because if you have a job in Israel, you contribute to society. When we came here today, an hour ago, I was shocked at the way Tel Aviv looked. I hadn't been in Tel Aviv. When I came on Aliyah, Tel Aviv was a little town with nothing, right? And it's a big city now. And it was built by Jews over this difficult period. And to be part of that, I think it's great, really.
Amazing. Do you want to end maybe with a joke? Because you're known for your jokes.
No, most of the jokes I know are not for public, not for
Give
men
us
and
one.
women. What?
Give us
I
one.
can't, look, if I hear something funny, I think of a joke, but I can't just
I
think
know.
of,
Like, just perform like that.
What?
You can't on the spot. Like, it makes it not funny.
Nah,
I get you.
I'm not a comedian. I think life is funny if you have the right attitude. Really, you always find something amusing. Even if you go on a bus and you smile at somebody and they smile back, I think that's terrific. Really, especially if you're in a Jewish country. Really.
Yeah, I get you. Zaydi, I love you very, very much.
I love you too.
And I really thank you for coming here all the way. It's very special to me.
Oh, thank you. I really do appreciate. I appreciate you, and I appreciate the guy who's helping you make this program. Yeah, he's a very nice guy.
He is very
I like him,
nice.
right?
Yeah,
Thanks, Zaydi.
Thank you, dear. Thank you, dear.
too.
Thank you.
that's it. There.
No, Mata Omer. Okay.
You're the man.
Yeah.
You're the man, אחי.
מה שאתה רואה זה אני.
It was a pleasure, really.
You know, I forgot his name already.
Alon.
Alon.
And you enjoy?
I always enjoy. Right?
תביא אותו עוד
היה
פעם. בוא
טובה,
נעשה,
היה טובה.
נעשה.